Well, hello. I have a special tutorial for you today, a very important posture. And I'm honing in on the importance of this because it has to do with the act of being over doing in this day and age. We as a society have been programmed to always be doing, right? When we are human beings, we are meant to live and exist in beingness, right? In feeling and connecting and experiencing this journey that we're on when life can become a constant list of to-dos, of doing the projects, of doing the errands, of making the appointments, of all these things that we feel pressured to do. So much so that when we slow down, when we find ourselves not doing, we feel guilty about not doing, and we shame ourselves into doing, right? Instead of just being in that space. So today's posture is Savasana, corpse pose. This beautiful posture is something that I always try to leave time for. And I know a lot of yoga instructors know that it's the most important time of our class, the end of class. And sometimes at the beginning class, you find yourself in this posture. I always like to do some kind of this posture at the beginning of class to help us drop in, but especially at the end, making sure that we leave some time to do our Shavasana or corpse pose. Let me show you. So, Savasana corpse pose is exactly what it sounds like, corpse pose. It's a chance for you to become dead weight, essentially. So, the most easiest, straightforward variation of this, at laying down onto your back, and let the legs go long. Let the arms go long. Just let everything on the mat relax. So, really try to let the limbs get long. Try to take up some space on your mat if you have the space to do so in your environment. Like, get a little wider with the legs. I always tell people if they can and don't have people right next to them in their classes or around them, or they've got, again, the space around them, to widen out their savasana, to take up space. Because oftentimes we're told not to take up space. We're told we're too much, to quiet down, right? To lessen ourselves. So this is a chance where you can really take up space on your mat and get wide and not be apologetic for it, right? And the goal here in Shavasana is to be here, right? So this is why this is such a hard posture for a lot of people. Is this at the end of class, you're wrapping up your class, your to-dos are starting to trickle back into your mind. You've got dinner to make, you've got maybe more work to get done when you get home, or whatever comes next after this, right? There's always something that comes next. So as you find yourself in this posture, you take a scan of the body. You tune inward. It helps you tune inward and be aware of what you're meeting here, what tensions, what resistance in terms of the urge to fidget, right? So all these things are meeting you here that make it very difficult to find stillness. But that's why this posture is so important. This asana is a practice in itself of just slowing down and existing in the space of surrender, of surrendering to just being. And so the important things to know about Shavasana is to really always be kind of checking back in and noticing the areas that you can release tension. So maybe you scooch the shoulders away from the ears. They were scooched up by the ears. A lot of people don't realize we have our shoulders always up, scrunched up, and kind of shrugging constantly because it's just like how we are holding our tension, whether we're on our phones or at a computer. So maybe you like check in, scooch those shoulder blades down, like really walk those fingertips down towards the bottom of the mat. And then let the feet splay out. Let the calves release. Let the thighs melt to the floor. Let the hip bones sink into the mat. And as you settle into this shape, as you take these scans, like get any of those fidgets out that help you settle in, right? Shavasana, yes, it's known for stillness, but it doesn't have to be this thing that you feel like, oh God, I can't move, right? Like if your body's telling you it needs to fidget or it needs to kind of readjust, then listen. This is giving you that space and that opening to hear it. And so, like, this is the most basic form of your corpse pose, just laying down, just taking a moment to be instead of be doing, right? But from here, I do have some options to show you in case you maybe aren't feeling this variation. I always am one to encourage exploring and what's going to feel good that day in that moment. So, this is option one. This is the most straightforward option of your Shavasana. Maybe you want to go for a bit more of a grounding feeling. So, you plant the feet down wide on your mat with the knees bent and let the knees knock together to center, right? So, that's giving your feet the sense of planting into the floor, into the earth beneath you. And the support of the knees to center might feel really nice. So, maybe this is a great one to do, right? Another one that often gets overlooked is if we were to roll around onto our stomach, onto our front side. And if we found a Shavasana belly down, right? So you let the legs just kind of splay out wide beside you, tops the feet relax on the mat. And for this one, actually, I love to bend at the elbows and bring those underneath my face at the top of the mat so that I can stack the palms and rest the head down. And by resting the head down here on top of the palms, you're kind of allowing yourself to cocoon inwards and really allow for that opening and that welcoming of introspection, of going inward. Because you're able to be looking down into your mat and kind of, again, cocooned down into your arms. So this can be a really nice one to take, and I encourage you to try it out. Some other options that I want to offer you for your Shavasana variations include props, and they're really restorative. You would see these more in a restorative practice than maybe your normal vinyasa or power or hatha practices. So, what you'll need for these variations are 2 blocks. You've got 2 yoga blocks. We'll need a bolster or a pillow of sorts. A bolster is just basically a big yoga pillow. For this first one, I'm going to show you what it's like to use your blocks and use your bolster to set you up for really restorative Shavasana ending posture. So you take your blocks, you take one of them long ways, standing tall, just like so. You place it at the top of the mat. You take the other one on its flatter, longer side, so more of its perpendicular side, and you're going to place that so that there's one lower and one higher. And then we're going to put our bolster at a slant so that it props on those blocks just like that and creates a little slant here. And then we're going to come to our feet. We're going to put our hips up to that bolster and we're going to relax and recline back so that the back is supported on that bolster. You can relax your head down and then maybe the legs start to splay out long, again letting the feet splay out and the arms can settle long down beside you. Better yet, you can even place blocks underneath your arms to give them a little lift, and that can be really supportive. But the idea here is you're allowing yourself the opening to the chest, allowing the shoulders to just relax and recline over that bolster. And you're just allowing that space for surrender. Shavasana is all about the surrender. It's a great tension releaser, stress releaser, and a great nervous system regulator because you're allowing yourself to tune into your breath, to slow down, and to come to that stillness, to balance out all of the go, go, go that our body deals with on the daily. So this is one variation. If you have availability of these props, I encourage you to try it out next time. But in general, your Shavasana should be one of those postures that you aren't afraid to stay in, right? Or that you challenge yourself to give yourself a little extra time to stay there. Because it's such an important posture to practice that slowing down so that when we are out in the world doing and going and getting caught up in that hamster wheel and maybe getting overwhelmed by it, you can have the ability to check in, to slow down, to balance things out because you know how to, right? With these resources, you can come home, take a little 2-minute Shavasana on your bed. If you fall asleep during it, I think that's a good sign, right? Because your body is telling you that that's where you need to go. I love when students fall asleep in my classes in Shavasana. Please stay tuned for more tutorials to come. Make sure to hit subscribe if you want to be notified when those drop weekly. And I look forward to hearing what you think about trying out these variations. Let me know what you think and which one might be your favorite so far.